Hey guys, it's your girl Shonna Etienne, and today I have a guest with me on the camera. It is my husband,
Sonny the tax doctor.
Sonny. I don't know where he gets this from and why he's calling himself Sonny. Like, what is that? But nonetheless, why do I have him on today? Well, you know what? We're going to talk about taxes today because I received a video from one of my faithful following friends that I love dearly. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And in the video, he gave me a clip of someone named Sherry Jackson. So if you guys don't know who Sherry Jackson is a former, I'm just going to get comfortable. If you guys don't mind, I mean, we're in our living room. Can I just get comfortable and be real on the camera today? Thank you. But Sherry Jackson is a former IRS agent, and she opened up her own business, and she started to help people do taxes as a CPA, a certified public accountant. And it was brought to her attention that there is no law that requires us to have to file taxes. So nonetheless, the IRS eventually caught up with Sherry Jackson, and she served 4 years in federal prison, right? 4 years on a misdemeanor, And if anyone knows about law, you don't serve 4 years on a misdemeanor, but he had got her on 4 counts, and I think they were all consecutive. And she did it in federal prison, like a misdemeanor. So I want you guys to take a look at this clip. I'm going to show you a little bit about Sherry Jackson so you can know who we're talking about. And we're going to have this conversation today about taxes from a tax expert's point of view of, do we have to file taxes by law, or are we all complying with the misapplication of the law? So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So take a look at this clip.
Correct me. That there's no tax law stating that citizens had to pay taxes, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, just to get some information about your story and some of the things you're doing now.
Well, I worked for the IRS from 1988 to 1995. At that point, I really didn't have a clue. I was just like most of the other Internal Revenue agents out there, just thinking they're doing their job for their country. It was when I left the IRS that people started approaching me and telling me that they'd done research and they couldn't find any law that made Americans that work and live in the 50 states liable for the income tax. And I listened to a couple of them, and I started hearing it more frequently, which made me think, well, there may be something to this. And I still didn't research immediately, but in 2000, let me back up a little bit. I had at the IRS for the last 7.5 years. Well, I was there 7.5 years. For the last 2.5 years that I was there, they had me auditing ministers. So when I came out, I was determined to help these ministers stay clear of the IRS. And one of my minister clients called me in the summer of 2000 and said, one of my parishioners is just chomping at the bit to talk to you. Will you talk to her? And I did. And this lady water-hosed me down with all this information that she had heard about the income, the definition of income not even being in the Internal Revenue Code, and the real definition being in the Constitution was corporate profits and all these things. And I listened to her, and then a couple of weeks later she called me back and she said, Ms. Jackson, the stuff that I was talking to you about a couple of weeks ago is in the USA Today. And that was in July 2000. There was a group called We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education that was headed up by Bob Schultz, and he had started putting out some USA Today ads. And I read that ad, and that's when I found out about Joe Bannister, which was another former IRS agent, but he was in the Criminal Investigation Division, and his book, and I ordered his book, and there was a $50,000 challenge in there for anybody to find the law. And I said, well, these people are serious. So I started researching, and to this day, I have not found that. I found a lot of other stuff, like, the Federal Reserve is the one that's in charge, the banksters, and they're collecting millions of dollars in interest from the American people every day, and that's where the tax money goes. It doesn't go towards fixing the roads or the schools or the policemen and the firemen or any of that. So it was a long road of education, but it was a decision that needed to be made. Am I going to keep this to myself, or am I going to tell people? And I felt like the people needed to know, and they needed to be able to make decisions for themselves.
So you guys seen the clip, you got it, and let's get started. So I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, before we even get started, why don't you tell the people who you are, what you do, and just make it as simple as possible so that they can follow along.
All right, so the name of my company is TaxDRX, so you can check us out at taxdrx.com. And I am an IRS enrolled agent, so it means that I'm also licensed with the U.S. Treasury Department, but I'm licensed in a different capacity. So I work on this side, meaning on the taxpayer side. So I'm a tax advocate, and my company looks to give a level of representation, meaning that I represent taxpayers, both individuals and small business owners, who's gotten into some level of trouble with the IRS. It could be, I got cases where people just haven't filed for a long time, and we bring, we restore all that. We file all the returns, get them back into good graces of the IRS. We have business owners who, when you're in business, hey, you have to make payroll, but you see things are tight. So they make a decision that, oh, you know what? I'll pay Shonna, but I'll pay the taxes later when so-and-so pays me. So they withhold the tax monies and they just pay the net check. And so when that quarter comes due, they're still short. You do it 1 quarter, you do it 2 quarters, you start skipping years. Now you've actually stolen trust fund monies from your employees and the IRS.
Oh, so let me simplify this.
Real.
Let me simplify this. Basically, in a nutshell, what you're saying is you represent people who have gotten themselves in trouble with the IRS because they have not been paying their taxes, whether it's their business taxes or their personal taxes. And sometimes they, just avoid paying taxes, or they forget to pay taxes or file taxes, and then you help them out of the hot water.
Totally.
That's what you do. So he basically helps the taxpayer who either intentionally don't file their taxes, unintentionally don't file their taxes, whether it's individual tax or corporate taxes, and you help to bring them compliant with the IRS.
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes life happens. Life happens.
Yeah, of course. We're not, it ain't a judgment toward anybody. We're just pretty much just saying that this is what you do. You help ease the pain of people who have not filed their taxes with the IRS, and you help to get them out. So you guys just saw the video of Sherry Jackson, which Sherry Jackson is basically saying that she could not find on the books any law that says that we are required to file taxes. So my question for you is, what is the law when it comes to taxes?
I think for me, and I'm not going to quote any specific code section because I don't memorize them. I have them in my office to look up whenever needed. But nonetheless, the minute that you apply for your Social Security number, okay, you implicitly agree to compliance, voluntary compliance. Okay, that one, you want to enroll into the system called the Social Security system, which includes Social Security taxes, Medicare taxes, federal and state taxes. Okay, in the incomes that we deem taxable.
So basically, if I hear you right, you're basically saying that the minute we apply for a Social Security number, we say, hey, give me the Social Security number, and I'm going to enter into your tax system, and I'm going to pay my taxes.
Voluntary compliance.
Well, that's what they say, voluntary compliance. I looked up voluntary compliance, but I got a great example to give you guys. But they say we're going to voluntarily comply with these taxes the minute we get our Social Security number. But what about those who are not from this country, who are not here legally, and they don't have a Social Security number? Do they have to pay taxes?
Well, that's the thing. If you're here as an undocumented individual, okay, and you are working, what the IRS then does is they allow for you to apply for what's called an I-10, an individual taxpayer identification number, so that you can then comply voluntarily. Because understand, if you're not documented, they have no way of making you file.
Okay, so if I'm not from here, but I'm living here, I'm not documented, but I'm living here, is the expectation that I'm going to apply for a 10, a tax?
Again, they can't enforce it.
But the expectation that I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it if you want legal status.
If you want legal status. Even if I'm undocumented, if I don't belong here?
Because think about it. If I'm undocumented, what's the best way of showing that I'm a good citizen? It's to actually
pay
work,
my taxes.
Pay taxes, give up some deductions that other U.S. citizens get.
Yeah, okay.
And now when I apply, I say, hey, look, I paid you guys thousands while I was illegal.
And then I run a red light. I get pulled over and they deport me.
Hey.
That's another story. But okay, so here's another thing. So what I was hearing from Sherry Jackson, how she's saying that there's no law, but there's a lot of talk. When I did my research, there's a lot of talk about the tax code, Section 861. What do you know about the Section 861 tax code?
I mean, not quoting it, but nonetheless, my understanding is that it's the code that speaks to taxpayers needing to file any taxes on income that's derived, or I call it global income, right? So if you're a U.S. citizen, whether you work in the U.S. or outside, you have to report your global income. It may not all be taxable, but you at least have to report it. And I'll give you some examples of untaxability.
So basically, let me go over the 861 tax code with you guys from the research that I've done, because this is the argument that so many people are making. They're saying, look, I don't have to pay taxes because the tax code, Section 861, doesn't apply to me. So I said, well, let me see, because if I can get out of paying taxes too, I am. Although I don't think I'm that bold, because most of those jokers got locked up, if not all of them, right?
That's why I said, look, my company, we represent taxpayers and we try to uphold the law and use the law to your benefit.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, and Ms. Jackson, think about it.
Mrs. Jackson.
Mrs.
She corrected the guy on the radio.
Sorry,
it's
Mrs.
Mrs. Jackson. The boo is married. Respect the name. Okay, go ahead.
The way I view it, this is coming from Sonny, right?
From Sonny Hudson, that is.
If you were an IRS agent, that means you had access to all the law, all the code sections, and you willfully didn't comply to the point where they brought you in court and was able to find you guilty of it. Shouldn't that tell you something? That is us as ordinary people?
So basically, when you're saying you, so we're not talking about me. We're talking about Sherry Jackson, because I you guys know I'm a therapist. I don't work for the IRS. You're basically saying because she was a previous IRS agent who had access to all the laws, all the tax codes,
and she still couldn't.
And she still could not beat the system.
And not only that, it's hypocritical to be operating a tax prep business, in my opinion, where you're filing taxes for other people, but yet you're touting that. Come on, it doesn't make sense.
Ooh, this is kind of deep. You're going to bring out the trolls, but what do you mean? Go a little deeper. You're saying you say she has a tax office. She's a tax preparer, which even though she's not working for the IRS anymore, tax preparers get tax preparing numbers, which you basically say, I'm going to uphold the law, the tax law,
which I don't believe in, that I should pay myself, but I'm going to have everybody else pay.
So you're saying that she was being a hypocrite?
Absolutely.
He calls Mrs. Jackson a hypocrite. That's basically what you're saying.
I mean, just saying.
You're just saying. No, I mean, it's your opinion. It's an opinion. I mean, everyone has an opinion.
And that's why.
Because she is helping people to prepare their taxes, but doesn't believe in a tax law, you're saying that's what's hypocritical.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you're saying that this got to tell us something, we the people, because even she, who worked for the IRS for years, even she couldn't beat the system.
But let's bring it one step further.
Wesley
Snipes got in trouble for the same reason. Willfully not voluntarily complying. That's all it was. Okay, you made millions, and he had millions that he could afford, great representation. And he still couldn't beat it. Who the heck are we?
Well, how do you know that it's like something like, what's that tell you? How do we know that the IRS is just not bullies? The federal government was just not bullies toward us.
Don't get me wrong. The IRS, I mean, they're like worse than gangsta. Because that's the way, I totally respect them because, look.
You respect who?
I respect the U.S. government. I respect the IRS. I respect the law.
Okay.
In that, if you have levy powers meaning I can go into your bank account without your permission and take your money. I can go into your job and take your entire check. I can take your house. Like, yo, I don't mess with people like that.
So it's like a way to control us. That's how I'm hearing it. I'm hearing that we are really not free. We just think that we're free people, but you can just go into our bank account and just, I pay my taxes, but I'm just basically saying that I like to look at that as a bully. If
we call it
wait a minute,
enforced compliance. That's what it is.
You say enforced compliance, but I would like to say that might be some form of bullying if there is no law that says that we have to pay taxes. No one can really answer that. I'm going to tell you about the guy named Ken Evans. Do you know who Ken Evans is?
Not offhand.
Okay, so Ken Evans, guys, he's this guy, and you guys can look him up. He's all over the internet, and he actually posted his transcript from the courts. He brought suit against the United States government, Department of Treasury and Department of Justice. He brought suit against them, basically saying that he correctly applied Section 861 of the tax code, but yet they still fined him and required him to pay taxes. So in terms, he's basically saying you guys are bullies. And what he said was the Section 861 tax code does not say that we have to pay taxes. That's what he's saying. So the code, what does the code say? The code basically says that if you get income from within the United States or outside of the United States and you are a U.S. citizen, you are required to pay taxes. And the examples that they give that's written in the law, you guys can look it up yourself under Section 861 of the tax code. It says interest. So if you get interest, you have to pay taxes on that. Dividends, personal services, and it goes on to what personal services are. It really goes deep into what personal services are. Rentals and royalties, disposition of U.S. real property interests, sale or exchange of inventory property, Social Security benefits, and guarantees. And it breaks down guarantees to include things like taxable income from sources within the United States and other stuff. This is what the Section 861 code is. But he asked the U.S. government through interrogatories, is when you give them a set of questions and you want answers onto that section, those questions that you propose to the courts or to the defendants. And he was the plaintiff in this case. And basically what he is saying is, here's some questions I have. Tell me what the law says. Tell me where is the law that says we have to pay taxes. What do you say about that?
It's in the IRS code. It's in the Code of Treasury. But again, if you want, and we can revisit this, because I did not prepare for this discussion, I can't quote it, but I can go to my office tomorrow, get that for our listening audience so that we all can be on the same page. Because the research that I think you did was, and remember, research can be biased in a sense, because we listened to Mrs. Jackson and you went to see, okay, what is she talking about?
I went to the tax code. So it's not a biased research. I went to a lot of pages under the IRS. Well, I went to the government's website to look at their tax code on Section 861.
Okay. Let me give you some insight.
Okay.
Prior to me diving deep and wanting to represent taxpayers, I had a group come into my office, okay, to actually recruit me into this particular tax-free tax opposition.
There's a lot of those groups out there.
Right? So, hey, look, I was interested in finding out more, okay, because in one sense, I was shocked because I'm like, oh, crap, if this is real, I'm out of business. Because I can't consciously have taxpayers paying taxes if this isn't legal.
Okay.
Okay.
Meaning if it isn't required. If it isn't required.
If it's not required, right? And in the same token, I was like, okay, this could be another opportunity because maybe I can jump on this bandwagon and make even more money. Okay. But so I'm doing the research. I'm looking at videos. I'm looking at these people in front of tax court, litigating, all of which lost, okay? However, when I came to the hearts of how they do it, I says, okay, so the way they do it is you have to actually forgo the use of your Social Security number. So you have to come up with a different ID number that's not tied into the system. Now, almost like an underground type of situation, right? Like I told you, the people that are working where you're not using your social, guess what? Your money technically, although it's not required, No one knows, so you just go under the radar.
So if we have a social security number, in essence, we are saying we have to pay taxes.
You voluntarily signed on to the system that you will voluntarily pay and participate.
And that's written in the tax code?
I will, again, this is my understanding of it, but I don't want to quote things
that's fine.
I'm going to go and grab it for us.
Well, when you get the information, really let me know so I can let the people know, because I want to know that. Because basically what you're saying is, as long as we have a social security number or a employee identification number, as long as we have that, we are required to pay taxes. So even though Mrs. Jackson, Wesley Snipes, and other people, they try to fight it, they lost because they have a social security number and or a federal ID number, and that's how they were.
And they didn't comply.
Tracking their income, and they didn't comply.
Everything is tracked.
So that's like the jokers that, you know, when they on child support, you go and you file your child support claim and you can't find any of them, and they run their system because they're running their social security number. And if that joker is not working on the books, whether that joker is a male or a female, because we know we have some deadbeat moms out there too, if they are not working on the books, there's no way they can make them pay child support because they can't find them.
It's not documented.
So as long as we put our social security number down on our W-4s, right? That's what it is. Our W-4s when we first get a job or we work for somebody, or we put our federal employee identification number of your business owners like ourselves, we are required by law to pay taxes.
You're required to report. No one said you had, again.
Oh, to report our earnings.
Avoidance is not illegal. You need to avoid, try and pay as minimal taxes as you can.
Okay, wait, say that again. Tax avoidance is not illegal.
Tax evading is.
Okay, so wait. We're going to have to break this down. He's saying tax avoiding. So like the rich people who avoid paying taxes, that's why they don't get locked up. Them jokers are fine,
that's why 45 says, look, I'm a smart guy. I 45. Use the law.
So that's why President Trump tells people, I didn't do nothing illegal. It is the law, because it's not illegal to avoid taxes, but it's illegal to evade taxes. Tell us the difference between the two for the people.
Avoid meaning you're using the code, you're using strategies to minimize your tax exposure. Avoiding is changing your W-4 to 9 or 25, knowing that you have to pay taxes. Now you're taking the tax money and not paying it intentionally. You're not even filing your taxes intentionally. You're evading. Okay,
so basically, for those of you guys that are out there, when he says those who's taking 9 or 25, he's actually talking about tax exemptions. So when you have your W-4, when you first get your job, they ask you, are you exempt from paying taxes? Most of us, 95% of the American citizens put 0. We don't claim any exemptions, most of us, right? But then there are those people who would take as high of a number they can to evade paying taxes.
They're trying to get a bigger check, but you're getting a bigger check as a result of...
But is that illegal? Is that illegal to put a number 9 or 25 on there? Is it illegal?
It's not illegal, okay? You're just misrepresenting your situation.
So it's not illegal, but we're misrepresenting our situation. What do you mean?
Okay. The way you get up to 9 or what have you is by answering the questions. Put one for yourself. Put one for each kid you have. If you own a home, put another one. That's how you add up to whatever that number is. However, if I'm single, it's just me. So the maximum that could be is maybe 1.
Okay.
Okay. If I put a 9, I'm misrepresenting my situation.
So you're misrepresenting what really is going on in the household.
Right. And then
so
I can put taking tax dollars that you should you're taking tax dollars that you shouldn't have got.
So I could put 4 for me and my three children.
You could, yeah.
Right? I could put 4. But if I put 10, then I'm just trying to get more money in my check, and then what's gonna happen to me?
You know you're gonna owe. And that's why taxpayers who do that they know they owe, and they know they don't have the money, so they don't even bother filing.
What do you mean they know they don't have the money? What do you mean?
They know how much they have in their bank account. They spent the tax dollars.
So basically, is there a way I can take a higher exemption and then just take care of it at the end of the year?
You'll never take care of it at the end.
How do you know I would never take care of it at the end of the year?
Because you took extra monies that you weren't due.
No, I just took what I worked for. I just took what I worked for. I mean, how am I taking...
Let me take that. Forget it. Let me take that back.
Okay.
I got one taxpayer. I can't tell you his name. He makes over 100,000, right? Mm-hmm. He's the only person that I know that actually, let's call it, exempts himself. Mm-hmm. He collects almost 19,000 additional in tax dollars, but he leaves it in his account or he puts it in his investment account. Okay. And when I do his tax and I say, okay, your bill is 19,000, guess what? He can cut the check. He cuts it year after year after year. That is not avoided.
I don't see the purpose of doing that, but okay, no, I get it. I get it.
He says, look, if I have the money, I can actually move and shake and do some things where I can flip it maybe 1 or 2 times.
Okay, so he's doing it as an investment purpose. Yeah.
Right. If the IRS has it, I don't have that option. It's not something that I recommend. However, I have seen one person do it successfully. Now, these other people that we're talking about, they don't do it for the benefit of, shaking and moving. They do it for a higher check so they can make ends meet.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing,
spend the money.
What I'm hearing you say is, if you're going to take more exemptions to keep more of your money in your check, you better be saving that money aside, the extra money, because you're going to owe taxes regardless, because you worked, you had earned income, royalties, dividends, interest, capital gain, whatever it is, you're going to have to pay taxes on those things, right? And if you're going to take money, if you're going to hold money back so you can have more money in your check, you better use that additional money to invest it, to grow your money, as opposed to spending it.
Right. And because I know most people are not disciplined, my recommendation is just don't do it.
Because most people are not disciplined, meaning they're going to spend that money anyway. They're going to go out there and get themselves a BMW.
They're going to do something.
With the money regardless. Okay, so basically, what am I saying? We're going to wrap this up, but what am I saying basically today? You're basically saying it's legal to avoid taxes, illegal to evade taxes, and you don't know any such law that says that you are not required to pay taxes unless you are underground and you're not using your social security number or any federal ID number that's assigned to you for the purpose of paying taxes.
And that last part, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying that that's the situation that allows people to go under the radar.
So you're not saying if you don't do it, you're saying that there are people who just don't use their social security number whatsoever, and that makes them under the radar, and that's how they avoid taxes. So basically...
Now remember, that's how they got Gotti.
Okay.
They didn't get him for racketeering. They got him for tax evasion.
They got him for tax evasion.
Because he was obviously making money, selling drugs, and look.
Wait, drugs ain't no taxable money?
What?
How is selling drugs or something illegal taxable money?
Global income, no matter how it's earned. If they can document that you've earned it, you owe the taxes.
Do you hear that, guys? So you drug dealers out there, no shade, but you drug dealers out there who are selling drugs illegal, you are expected to pay taxes. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? I still think that the IRS are bullies. I still think that as taxpayers, we're the ones that's hurting because the poor and the middle class gets taxed more. And I mean, basically, no one can really answer that question. Is there a law that says that we have to pay taxes? And I know you keep saying once you get the social security number that you are voluntarily compliant to pay taxes. But I looked up that terminology where people say voluntary. What is the term that they say about the voluntary taxes or what? Compliance? Voluntary compliance to pay taxes. I looked that up and I wanted to see what exactly did that mean. And there's this one website that stands for the ratification of the 16th Amendment. You guys have to look up the 16th Amendment. We're not going to get into that today. But basically what they said was, listen, don't get so caught up, and I'm paraphrasing, but don't get so caught up on the term voluntary compliance, because basically you don't go into a grocery store or department store with armed guards following you around everywhere. It's expected that you will voluntarily comply with the law, and the law is illegal to steal, rob, and all this other stuff. So you don't have an officer who's armed following you to make sure you follow the law. It's saying that we expect that 99% of the people will follow the laws as they are. So that's what he's basically saying.
Example.
Okay.
When you buy a car, you accept voluntary compliance to, at minimum, put liability insurance on your car. And if you don't, then what happens?
You get fined. You get fees.
You get fined. Your car will get towed, et cetera, et cetera. If you get in an accident,
you're in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. So that's another example of voluntary compliance.
So us having car insurance in order for us to put our car on the road is an example of voluntary compliance, because there is no law. Is there a law that says that we have to have car insurance?
Motor vehicle law.
Okay, so there is a law.
Right,
but we're asking, is there a tax law? Okay, he's saying the tax law guy.
I just gave you an example of voluntary compliance where the government put together code section to create a law to protect other.
Yes, I know the tax codes are laws, but I'm asking you, is there a specific...
Look, from the Treasury Department, they put a law in place where individuals, business owners, etc., it's a way of them raising monies. Yeah, right?
It's screwing us.
To run the country. Now, mind you, I'm from...
To run some areas of the country, because some neighborhoods ain't doing too well.
I'm from...
Crime is out of control. Poverty is out of control, but they pay taxes. Come on now, but go ahead.
I'm from a place where you can go tax-free. It's called Haiti. Okay, so...
Sock by
say. You don't want to pay no taxes? Go back, whatever.
Go to Haiti.
Go to Haiti, and you'll see that you don't have any of the services. You don't have any of the structures. You don't have any of the stuff that we have.
So the taxes are for us to have the benefits of...
a free country that works for some people. I'm not in disagreement with you, but...
Okay, I'm just saying that's it. We don't have any more. I hope this helped you guys. Basically, at the end of the day, there apparently is a law that says that we have to pay taxes.
Yeah, I'll get it for you.
And he's going to look it up. We're going to hold him to that to see if he comes back with his law. There are plenty of people out there that fight against the system by saying that they are correctly applying Section 861 of the tax code, which they believe that exempts them from having to pay taxes. But all those people have either been fined or thrown in jail. So you guys do whatever you want to do. I'm going to continue paying taxes because this face right here ain't going to look good in prison. I can promise you that. So thank you guys for tuning in. I have to go to my little one now because I can hear him in the background. So he obviously needs our love and attention. And we're just going to spend the rest of Memorial Day just having fun, doing whatever, movie time. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, babe, for being a part of this. And I hope you guys don't scare him away.
Check out taxdrx.com.
Yes, tell the people how they can reach you.
Taxdrx.com. My number is 877-908-1040.
So it's taxdrx.com. The number is 877-908-1040, and we'll put that on the screen. The number is here, so you can call. Speak to you soon.